Cool.
Recording in progress.
So welcome everyone. People are still arriving, so we will take a moment. Some names that I recognize, which is pretty cool. Good to see you all. Particularly the guys who I'm going to interview. I'm glad that I recognize you there in the audience. That's when the heart starts to pound a little bit. We're going to give a moment for other people to arrive. So tell you what, could you pop into chat where it is that you are in the world? Where are you dialing in from? That's a pretty cool thing for me to know. That'll be good. So we've got Cardiff, the French Alps. Ben, I remember jealous last time you told me that. Tucson also, yeah, cool. Suffolk. I never know where you are, Mike.
Neither do I.
It's these guys' questions to try and find out where you were. Got the Midlands. Which part of the Midlands? I'm in the Midlands. Spain. Oh, Marbella. Stop it, Claire. Stop it. Toronto. Real international mix. I am going to be using chat quite a lot. So if I'll be asking you questions, if you can pop stuff into there, that'll be good. Certainly the first part anyway. When I get to the interview part, again, if there's questions you think I should be asking, please fire them in. And if there's general stuff that you'd like to understand, again, pop them into chat. I will keep an eye on that. So will Donna. Donna's helping with that. She's facilitating that, getting the right speakers on at the right time, and having the right people in the spotlight. I do have to say, though, it's Donna's birthday today. This is her birthday treat. She gets to facilitate book launches, and I've already done 3 webinars. So can you put in a little happy birthday in chat to Donna? Or if you know how to use the reactions, if you know how to use the button at the bottom, give her a little party popper thing or a cake or a smile or something along those lines, just to make her hate me less. Because she gets some birthday.
Thank you.
Ben's giving a cake. That's nice. So yeah, I'm going to crack on because the format for this is that the reason I've invited the guests I have is that for me, they are top of their game when it comes to certain parts of the evolved model that the book covers. So I just want to take you through why the book and what the evolved model is. And then I will start to get the really interesting guys on, and we'll start to go in a bit of depth about how we can start to take this and start to apply it. But just before I go on, could I just ask you another question quickly into chat? What is your favorite dinosaur? You pop what your favorite dinosaur is into chat. There's a bit of an odd assumption here that one has a favorite dinosaur. Boris Johnson. Right, okay, T-Rex. I think the people who put T-Rex are the ones that can't be bothered to type usually. Pterodactyl, yeah, people show off who put that. Okay, so it'll start to make sense why I've asked you about the favorite dinosaur. So let me just introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Fred Copestake. I don't think I'm a dinosaur. I certainly hope not. I've been around a bit though, certainly from a training point of view. 22 years, been around the world 14 times, worked in 36 countries, trained over 10,000 salespeople. That's a real privilege to do that sort of stuff. And what I've been able to do while I've been doing that is to spot some of the challenges that salespeople face. And I try to group these really broadly. And this is why I wrote my first book, Selling Through Partnering Skills. It was to address these challenges. Things that I'm seeing salespeople having to contend with are the challenges that I class as busy, oldie worldy, and muddled mindset. Busy is this running around, being really active, doing loads and loads of stuff, but not actually getting any results for it because it's ineffective. The oldie worldy stuff is to do with using things that just don't work anymore. They're just rubbish. So if you like, and they can wind customers up. They can actually be a bit destructive. And then the muddled mindset comes from the fact that salespeople have been told to be consultative, told to be customer focused, told to help people with this, but also told to go out and sell stuff. So it's like, am I consultative? Am I transactional? Don't know. So that's what book 1 was about. Like I say, is to help people deal with this. So it's by helping them become more effective, it's to help them get more up to date, and it's to help them just be more aligned to the stuff that really works. So that's what was going on there. And I wrote that, came out in 2020, happy days, things are going to be good, got something to work around. And of course, stuff happened. Yeah. I'm all about getting good salespeople to do things in a good way, but things happened so that we've got to help them to do things to deal with some of the changes that have taken place. Because with the evolution of sales that we see, we knew some stuff was going to happen, but some stuff happened quicker. It was like somebody pressed this fast forward button on the world of selling. And so we need to deal with this. We need to adapt. Yeah, we need to evolve. Now, we know that it's not the fittest, it's not the smartest, but it's those who can adapt that are going to survive. And now that might sound a little bit sensationalist, but I have a feeling that some salespeople will cease to exist because they won't be relevant. They won't be doing things that are interesting to their customers. So my job, and my colleagues who we're going to talk about in a little bit, is to help people do this. So that's why I got into writing hybrid selling quite quickly after the first book. It was 3 months. I sat down and did it to be as responsive to these changes that we start to see. Because the changes that this now helps us deal with are the challenge, or sort of the challenges we see people we have to deal with are to do with change. So 3 broad areas: customer change, climate change, sales climate change, and change itself changing. A bit of a mindset thing here, but let's have a think about these. Customers we can see are being more advanced. So they're further down the buying cycle than ever before. They've already started to solve their own problems. They've started to work things out. There's more information out there. And this gives a challenge to salespeople. Customers are also more biased. They're more biased to the things that they like. So I could say this is also like more demanding because they've got higher expectations. They know what it is they're trying to achieve. And so as salespeople, we've got to get up to this level. They're in control. They're really powerful. However, there is a bit of a paradox because customers are also more confused than ever because we live in a VUCA world. So VUCA, this military model or old military model, which now applies very much to the commercial world, helps us realize that we're on this state of confusion. VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. That is what our customers are facing. Salesperson, we can very much help them with this. There's a good opportunity to set ourselves apart as salespeople. The climate, the sales climate changing is to do with the type of sale, the techniques, the technology. There are so many different ways which we can go about selling. So many different ways, different sales models. One extreme, we've got SDRs setting up appointments for AEs. Other end, we've got full cycle salespeople, key account managers. We've got classic selling, consultative selling, value-based selling, enterprise selling, strategic selling. Different types of sale, different things which salesperson can get quite confused with the best way to do something. Get so many different techniques thrown at them, which can become, again, difficult to work out what is the best way to operate, what's going to work for a customer and them. And of course, the technology, the advancements in that is huge. I think that there's now 8,000 different platforms, 8,000 different pieces of kit a salesperson can use to help them with their job. Crazy stuff that we need to be helping people get clear about the best way to operate. And then change itself. Now, change is a challenge. And by this, I'd break it into the sense of change, the stance people have for change, and the speed with which they can adapt to change. So the sense of change is to what degree do people realize that change is happening? The old analogy for this is the boiling frog. Throw a frog in boiling water, it jumps out. Put a frog in cold water, gently heat it up, get it to boiling point. The frog doesn't realize it boils to death. Horrible analogy, but one which we just works for helping us think about what's going on. This stuff is changing and we might not be aware of it. When we are, then there's the stance we take on change. Are we initiators? Are we people who like change? Do we get stuck into it? Do we like the opportunity? Do we want to work with it? Are we resistors? Do we push back? Is it something we don't like? Or is it something which we will adapt to? So somewhere between those two different ends of the spectrum. The speed of change, this for me is about how fast things are evolving. It is going super, super quick. And if we're not careful, there is a distinct opportunity that salespeople are going to miss the bus. They're not on the bus, they aren't going to be relevant, there isn't a place for them because they're adding no value, they're doing nothing for themselves, their customers, their own company. So we can help them with this, we can help them adapt to it. That's what the book's all about. And we help them align. So they can align themselves with customers, they can make sure they're in the right place within the buying cycle and taking them and guiding them through that. They can balance their approach to do the things which are going to make a difference, and they can use this understanding of VUCA and how to deal with it to help customers be less confused. They can transform their sale to something that works. They can tailor their techniques into a way that really makes sense, and they can take control of the technology. Don't let it control themselves, but they use it as the support that it's intended to be. So they need to be more savvy about change, to think about, okay, so how is this affecting me? And then we want to have a smooth transition, and salespeople should be slick. Yes, I said that. Salespeople should be slick. What an odd word to pick about salespeople, because yes, it has so many negative connotations. I looked some up. I looked these up, and what do we have when we see slickness? Hanky-panky, hocus-pocus, jiggery-pokery, skullduggery, and trickery. Right, the book is not about that and how to use that in sales. It also means clever. And so the way I would like people to think about this is that we're sat in the back of a limousine. This limousine, a Maybach. Maybachs are different, like this, ultra luxurious. But when these things take off, they take off really smoothly, but they go fast. That's slick. That's how I mean slick. And that's what the book is designed to help people get their head around this. Let me just ask a quick question. Do you like crisps? Do you like crisps? Let's pop a little yes or no in there. Do we like crisps? Potato chips for my friends across the pond. No, that's the first no I've had all day. I've asked this question 3 times already. I love them. Who doesn't? Well, Claire doesn't get it clearly. Oh no, my next question is what flavor? And people who want prawn cocktail aren't really invited anymore. But I can't say that because I know that my co-host does. So I'll cut some slack in that case. Cheese and onion. Now the cheese and onion fans, I am with you. Right, cheese and onion crisps. Well, I've not lost the plot. Cheese and onion crisps. For me, when we think about bag of cheese and onion crisps, this is important because people grow onions, people make cheese. Then somebody sells that. They sell it to a flavor manufacturer. That's a complex process that somebody then goes, sells the flavors to the crisp manufacturer, who then manufacture crisps with machines which somebody has sold. Somebody sold them the logistics, the trucks, the kit, the IT that's going into running the whole process, the factories, the operation. So he then goes, they sell the crisps to the supermarket, to the seller. In the supermarket, there's shelves, there's stack. Somebody sold that. This more traditional type of full cycle selling, I get a little worried about them being left behind. This is why I've written the book. I'm worried about these guys not getting the attention that a lot of the SaaS and some of the more sexy inverted commas stuff going on. And that's who I really want to make sure they're able to take a full-on approach that is needed to be modern. So another analogy I use with this is like playing a drum. If you're only playing one drum, if you're just tapping away, that might have been good enough in the past. It's not good enough going forward. We need to equip people with a full drum kit, a full set of skills to be able to make them relevant. Again, that's what the book's all about. Yeah, I've not even put any links in, have I? What a rubbish salesperson I am. I shouldn't even be running sales courses if I can't sell my own book, which is on offer today. 99p, 99 cents. Donna, could you just pop those links in, please? Otherwise, people won't listen to me anymore. What are you going to get in the book? Okay, if that's not convinced you so far, what are you going to get in the book? Well, the book, you'll get introduced to Harry and Larry. 3 parts of the book. First part is a story. Harry and Larry, 2 sales guys. They've got to deal with this change that's going on. How do they get through? How do they get through this period where their lives are turned upside down? Well, read the story, find out. But basically, they invent the evolve model. The evolve model are the elements of sales which I believe that salespeople will need to be accomplished in to be successful in the future. This involves, and this is why I'm inviting these guys to come and talk to me about this, the essentials. The essentials, this is about taking the evolution of sales, the bits that work, keeping those, binning the bits that don't. Having a good solid basis. This is your foundations. Without good foundations, it's like building a house on sand. So for me, value framework, that's what I talk about in book 1. That's for me the essentials. That's solid. We've got to have good virtual selling skills using video, live, sent, synchronous, asynchronous, bringing in social selling elements, using those tools that I've talked about there to assist salespeople. Tyler's going to help us understand some of this. Opportunity management, information. Information is key. We need to really be understanding the stuff that we know, but also accepting the stuff we don't know, doing something about that. A lot of this is to do with decision-making units, the stakeholders, the people, the influencers that are involved, and how we can build a mutual action plan to help them with that. Claire's going to talk to us about this as well. We want to lead people. Again, not an 80s slick, tricky dicky type salesperson, but a servant leader, someone who can guide, understanding buying process, helping people with buying process, taking VUCA on, helping them understand how to do that, advancing the sale. James is going to help us understand that. Understanding value. What is it? Well, we don't know. It's a mystery. That's a phrase I nick from Mike. He's going to help us understand that and what the challenges are and how we can generate insight and do something to help with this. And then we're going to talk about how we expand the sale, how we can use customer success management principles, how we can understand account management tools, and how we can look after ourselves, be in the best position. It's a hell of a lot in the book. The guy who wrote the foreword said, Fred, it's a bit overwhelming, but I guess that's the point. Yes, it is. There is a lot that salespeople need to get their heads around to be successful in the future. Let's start to have a little bit of think about that. So, Donna, I wonder if you could invite Tyler onto the screen for us. Tyler,
hello there, Fred.
How the devil are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me here, and hello to everyone. Shout out to my salt and vinegar friends out there.
Right, Donna, can you take Tyler off the... No, actually, I don't mind salt and vinegar. Very good. No, so Tyler, let me just introduce you correctly, because I'm so pleased you've managed to make time to see us, because you've got a lot going on these days. Yeah. So GTM leader, media mogul now with the sales feed, evangelist and strategist with Vidyard, and probably something else as well. Sorry. Have I hit all the main elements?
I mean, those are the big ones. I've spent my last 8 years now, which is basically a lifetime in the world of SaaS, in my life here at Vidyard, where I've been heading up our marketing programs. I spent a lot of time in the sales community, focused on this area of video and sales, as you alluded to earlier. Like you, I actually wrote a book about this rise in virtual called The Visual Sale, which also was sort of at this interesting time when we were heading into the pandemic and all this stuff accelerated, right? This idea of virtual selling isn't new, but wow, did it accelerate over the last couple of years? So it's been a pretty wild ride, and this evolution of the use of video and virtual selling has been a big part of my life for the last few years.
Yeah, no, and yeah, again, you made time to talk to me on a podcast and shared loads and loads of interesting and useful tools, but we've got to keep it punchy. We've got to keep it on point. The Visual Sale is an excellent book. I loved it. so useful, packed full of tips. But why is it so important? If somebody hasn't quite got this yet, can you just kind of give us the basics of what we're missing out on?
Well, I think the biggest thing when we think about this new world of sales, virtual selling and again, video, they're not new. They're things that have been evolving for a number of years, but are really coming to the forefront now, because it's not only we're now all, frankly, selling in primarily a remote or virtual way, but our buyers are also now buying in more distributed fashions than ever before. The whole dynamic has been changing. At the same time, though, this evolution's been happening where people just inherently start to expect and more prefer rich media content in preference to static content and text, because of just how we live our lives, what we're exposed to on a daily basis. But they also expect more and more on demand. They want to do self-education, self-learning. And that's been a big part of the evolution of sales over the last decade, is how do we move away from dependency on always being on live calls and say, how do we serve our prospects and customers? How do we give them what they want to consume on their own time? Because that's their preferred modality in many cases. So you have all these sort of converging factors happening of more virtual, a preference towards media, an expectation of on demand, and you go like, well, wait a minute, none of those are a part of the old world of sales. So we need to start to figure this out and say, how do we connect with our customers when we can't be there in person? How do we deliver them more rich media? How do we do it in an on-demand way, but don't risk, taking ourselves out of the sales process? And that's where, when you get creative with how you can use video, there are so many opportunities, which is a big thing, of course, we focused on in the book, and a lot of the things that I work with customers on these days.
And that's the bit that really struck me, in that, well, nothing should be obvious, but kind of having to use video conferencing. I mean, literally, we had no choice, did we? But it's those other ways. You used the word on demand about 5 times then.
Yeah.
In less than 2 minutes. And that's the really interesting thing.
Yeah.
We're creating video, we're sending it, and we can use it in different parts of the sales process. That's how I've understood this. It's not just we can only do things live. So
Yeah.
where would you use it in the sales process?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big part of this here, like being almost forced to be on video calls now. We've all gotten comfortable with this idea of having a camera, having a microphone, and doing these sorts of interactions. But now the magic is, there is no barrier to entry to be able to now record a video using your webcam, using a screen share, and then sending it over to a prospect or customer over email, over text, over social, however it is you want to deliver it. The tools are there that make that like free and simple. It's totally democratized. So now you start to think about, well, how do I do this, right? If I'm comfortable with video, and the honest answer is, anytime you have an important message to deliver, right? Anytime you're going to send an email to a prospect or client, anytime you want to clarify something, back to what you talk about in the book, walk through something very clearly, is an opportunity to record and send a video. Right. So we see people doing it all throughout the sales process these days. They're using it when they're reaching out to a new prospect to stand out and be a little bit more personal, so they can see them and get to know them a little bit. They use it when they are trying to walk through different ideas or answer questions, maybe showcase how something might work without depending on getting on a live call. We say, oh, well, I can't just send you an email about that. I got to show it to you. So let's book a call. Right. And then you book it for next week. And then that gets pushed to the next week. And we're in this inevitable world of, just things don't line up. And I say, well, wait a minute. Why don't I just record a video? I'll send it over. You can watch it on your time. Let me know what you think. And all of a sudden now our sales processes are moving along. They're now more asynchronous and on demand, but we're still infusing ourselves into the conversation. So those are just a few of the ways we're seeing sales reps now use these video messages, screen recordings, in addition to those live video calls, to connect with customers in a very different way in this virtual sales world.
As you said, we're putting ourselves in front of the customer, even though we're not physically there. So I think it was you told me that the brain doesn't really know the difference between what's live and what's not. It's seeing somebody, they're there, they're walking, they're talking, they're saying stuff, and the brain goes, oh, I've kind of met this guy. Is that correct?
Well, it is. It's a huge part of it, right? Just seeing our faces, hearing our voices, our tonality, our body language, it makes us more familiar. It makes us more relatable. Obviously, it makes us more human, creates that empathetic bond. And we all know this as salespeople. That's why we always try to default to meeting somebody in person, right? We can build that relationship. The next best thing is a video call, and the next best thing is a video message. And so these are all ways in which, again, we need to keep ourselves as part of the process. We need to keep building those relationships, make sure that all the different stakeholders have a chance to get to know us, whether or not they're willing to take the time to get on a live call with us. And that's where this can start to play such an important role. And I think the future of virtual selling is really exciting, because it's actually an opportunity. Now, hold on to your hats for this one. I think in the virtual world, we can actually make the sales process more personal than it ever has been before. And it's because we can use tools like video to scale how we connect with people personally, how we can get ourselves in front of more people than we ever could before, when we relied too heavily on in-person and then just email. So I'll leave you with that little nugget to think about, of how digital can actually make the sales process more personal if you think about it in the right way.
Whoa. So, well, I mean, you're kind of preaching to the converted here. I think there's probably some who are thinking, I'm not so sure.
Oh, you're going to see. Just wait and see.
I'm not going to let you just leave us with that. It would be remiss of me not to ask you about the platform that we should perhaps be using.
Oh,
what would your
well,
recommendation be, sir?
I mean, I'm not here to sell anything, Fred, but what I will say is that
I asked you.
I'm with Vidyard here, and we have really great tools to do this. The best part, though, is it is a free. You can sign up for free, use it as much as you want to record and send these videos. I think the most important thing, what we've done here at Vidyard, and of course there are other tools as well, is that it makes it as easy as possible. Literally one click, record a video, send it. let them watch it, let them hear you, let them see you. And that's the magic of what's happening with video now. It is so accessible. It's so easy. There aren't really any excuses not to use it. You just got to figure out, how does it fit in my process and how do I take advantage of it? So feel free to go check out Vidyard if you haven't tried it out yet. I appreciate that, Fred.
Nah, that's cool. And just one more thing. Sorry, bit Columbo on you. Sales feed. Sales feed is a new thing for you. So I kind of jokingly said about being a media mogul, but now this is really interesting stuff. So again, just give us a little pitch on that as well, please. Because I do want people to discover this.
Well, a big part of our commitment here in what I do is helping the sales community as a whole start to think differently, evolve their processes, and we decided to launch what we're referring to as a new media network called Sales Feed. I have a dedicated team of people that are part of it, and this is all about creating new forms of education as well as entertainment for the world of sales in more modern, rich media formats, social first formats. No hour-long webinars, no 2,000-word blog posts. It's short, quick things that often make you laugh as well as teach you. So you can check more at salesfeedmedia.com. We've got a weekly newsletter. We've got about 5 or 6 original shows, as well as a whole host of other short-form content. So I'm really excited about it, and I'm learning a lot just participating with others from the community and bringing that content together.
You've got there's some good stuff on there, some good presenters. Again, I've had the pleasure of talking to. So
awesome.
Now, look, thank you so much. I could carry on asking you questions all evening here, but thank you so much for making some time. We've dropped the Vidyard link in there. I do need to keep the show on the road. This is ironically, I'm probably going to run out of time at the end to talk about self-management. That'll be funny. But no, Tyler, thank you so much. And so I would like to now bring into the discussion Clare. So Clare O'Shea is founder of Marlowe Sales Academy, who's expert in sales skills training, particularly strategic relationships. So that's why I wanted to talk to Clare about opportunity management and understanding stakeholders as much as anything. So again, I'm going to fire straight into questions. And why are stakeholders and understanding stakeholders, why is that so important?
A lot of it is really understanding the buying process. Like you, Fred, I've been involved in strategic selling for about 20 years now, with more than 15,000 salespeople I've sold to. But before we even get to these stakeholders bit, there is a link here. One is, I think Vidyard is brilliant, by the way. I don't use it enough, but it is unbelievably easy. Such a great tool. But also, I just want to take you to a call I had actually this week. Well, I had it with a customer, actually it was a supplier. I do a little bit of associate work for this particular supplier. All 3 people on the call, none of them had their video on. I had my video on. And at the end of the call, I was frankly a bit peed off. I couldn't work out why I was in such a bad mood. And I came away actually thinking, do I really want to work with this organisation anymore? Because I just felt so disconnected, because I thought they made no effort and it was all a bit bitty and it wasn't very organised. I get away with that sort of stuff. But it was interesting about this thing of is more personal. I agree with Tyler. Actually, virtual, we can have more connection with people because it doesn't matter where they are. As going back to stakeholders, in the olden days, what people used to always talk about was find the main man, find the big cheese, find the economic buyer. And it was all about the decision maker. And that is so last century. So we know that over the last particularly 3 to 5 years, and this is to do with the more complex sale. I tend to get involved in large technology programs and stuff, helping customers, salespeople to sell large technology items and stuff. But going for the big cheese, the big decision maker is just crazy. It's very old fashioned. And it's about understanding all of the stakeholders involved. Because we know that in the last 3 to 5 years, the number of people involved in the decision making process is far more than it's ever been. Far, far more. The other thing is there's definitely been a massive rise of consensus-based decision-making. So obviously with more people involved, more consensus decision-making going on, they both sort of go hand in hand. There's also been sort of increased risk, probably since 2008, and the bankers ruined the world for us. There's a bit more risk going on there as well. So therefore, as a salesperson, or even as an account manager in a strategic sense, if we focus just on a small number of people, we're never, ever going to understand the complete issues, because each of those stakeholders have completely different buying criteria, but actually they also have different challenges, different problems. And all anybody wants, I think selling is unbelievably easy, simple, not easy, simple. I think all that anybody wants is the best solution for them. The complexity is that each of those different people have a different version of what's best for them. So whether it's procurement, or whether it's the C-level, or whether it's the IT department, or it's line of business, marketing or sales or so forth, they've all got different things they're trying to get out of it. So the real complexity for the salesperson, I think, is first of all, understanding all that and getting around all those people, and then tailoring whatever they're pitching to all those individual people. There's an extra complexity as well. So it's not just about finding out about where they all are. As you know, I love the word align, as you do, Fred. It's all about align to the buying process. So the additional complexity is that different stakeholders can well be at different phases of their buying process in an individual project. So for example, one person in the stakeholders might have said to them, I don't even recognize there's a need. We don't need to do anything. Meanwhile, somebody else has decided the answer is X, Y, Z. And there's a myriad of options in between. And people don't stay in the buying process, they move up and down. There's a misconception that once I decide what I want, but we know customers, they say, I want X, you talk to them, you challenge them, and they say, actually, I didn't really mean X, what I meant was Y. Because customers don't always know what the art of the possible is either. So it's about understanding. So as a salesperson, it's being much, I think, selling and account management is much more analytical and much more intelligent than people give it credit for. So it's those people who plan and monitor and keep relationships going, of course, as well. But it's not about the relationship just for being a nice person, people buy from people. It's genuinely understanding the full clarity of the business issue, the company issue, and the individual role issue, and making sure I put all those together before I even try and tailor my pitch or my solution, whatever it is. So I think that's the key. Stop going back to the old-fashioned one of the decision maker. Frankly, that's very last century.
Okay, so lots of different people, lots of information, and it's about kind of keeping track of that and using that and kind of using that intelligently to generate your next actions.
Yeah.
Some people do this excellently, and some people just don't. Yeah. Why do you think people might not do this? What do you think the blocker there is?
I think we know from a lot of research that a lot of salespeople just pitch too soon. So as soon as we hear a little signal that goes, hey, I'm interested, the customer goes, oh, they're clearly interested in something, a buying signal, whatever you want to call it, they just rush in too soon. So the whole piece of understanding that they're behaving like a salesperson, not a consultant. The biggest message I tell to salespeople is stop selling. You know, chill, calm down, stop selling. And they go, oh my God, I'm going to go up to my management. The biggest thing I've learned is how to stop selling. I said, yeah. And then tell the sales director to talk to me because I'll justify it. Stop selling so hard and try and be consultative. So go in with a mindset of, I'm trying to understand what your issues and challenges are. And of course, behind the scenes, do some research about what they are likely to be, because you should do your research, obviously, in the industry and the company and so forth. But I think that's a real core of thinking, stop selling, calm down. So that's a mindset thing. Sometimes they're just not being told. So when I do training and I just do a very simple 4-box model of saying, actually, there are 4 types of buyers-ish, blah, C-level, line of business, finance, procurement, and IT. And people just go, duh, that's so obvious. All you're dealing with is in this tiny little person here. So IT salespeople typically sell to IT. And I wrote down a few research that I share with people. And I think this blows my mind every time I read it. For IT purchases, this is very specific to the industry I sell into and train into. If anyone would like to guess, what percentage of IT decisions, so buying IT, does not involve IT department at all? Anyone like to guess what that is? Can put in chat, bit of interaction. Can't get the trainer out of me. Actually, Gavin, maybe I've made it out to be too good. At 29, 50% is a bit high, 29%. 20. So IT, if it's an IT system, they're going to be involved. But like 10 years ago, it would have been 90% and no line of business. And then the interesting other thing is, but 52%, for those people who've got 50%, 52% don't even use the IT budget. So many salespeople are out there doing the old qualifying. Have you got a budget? Well, the IT department might not have the budget because they're using the business unit budget. because it's a line of business people that have got, they're actually involved in 72% of the decisions. And all those bits of research I'm quoting are from Gartner, Forrester and CompTIA. I've said different pieces of research, but I think that's mind blowing. And once you share that with people, they go, oh yeah, there are many more people involved and you need to find out who else is involved. And some other bit of research, which I think, and I check it out every time I do this, so anecdotally from my own experience as well, most account managers are only speaking to about half the number of people involved in the decision-making process. But if you're only speaking to half the people, how on earth can you possibly have a full understanding of the whole picture, and how on earth can you possibly tailor it? So if somebody else is speaking to 75% of them, they've got an advantage over you. And that's when price becomes less of an issue, of course. But arguably not even an issue at all, Mike Wilkinson. But yeah, so that's what I feel strongly about.
Michael, no, brilliant. Claire, again, you know, I know we could talk about this for hours, and we have done on the podcast series where we tell everyone counterintuitively not to do stuff like stop selling. So I've said I hope no one takes this and edits this video where I've said salespeople need to be slick, and you said stop selling. We might shoot ourselves in our foot for any more work. So
I think commented by Paul in the chat there, 5 years, DMU's moved from 6 to over 12. Yeah, not surprised at all. Very normal.
Got the stuff. So, look, Claire, thank you so much for jumping in and joining us. I'm going to ask Donna now if she could now bring James in to have a chat. James will save us from this self-destruction of telling people to use all these weird behaviors that kind of a bit counterintuitive. Or are you just going to tell us to be all close? Because that's your book, sir.
Not at all. Not at all. Anyway, I would just add to what Claire said. You know, I think the key from a leading perspective is just get off your solution for a minute and just facilitate the customer making a purchase and getting their goal. That's it. That's really what you are, right? So if we could redefine selling, not so much as you're the agent that can sell them a thing, but you're the person that's enabling them to solve a problem that they have. And guys, sometimes that involves you, and sometimes it doesn't involve you. And hopefully it does involve you, but you'll find selling so much more enjoyable if you just walk into every situation, tabula rasa, blank slate. What can I do to help this customer? And I hope that whatever it is that you offer fits into that framework somehow. It probably will, especially if once they understand that you're just trying to help them, they'll try to find a way to incorporate you into what they do. That's just doing what I'm telling you will differentiate you as a sales professional, because so many people don't do that. I manage sales teams. I'm a CRO for a holding company, and I had a guy call me one day. He goes, don't ever send that guy back here. That guy has commission breath. Okay. And that was the first time I'd ever heard that term. Right. And I'm like, commission breath just captures so perfectly what we're trying to not be as sales professionals, because all you're really doing is trying to understand their problem and facilitate a decision. And as easy as it is to say that in one sentence, it's much harder to do, like Claire mentioned, because you've got half a dozen to a dozen stakeholders that all have different ideas of what that is. But you can be the person that helps facilitate that. And that's leadership, guys. Helping a customer get to where they are, from where they are to where they want to be. That's leadership. Okay, so you're leading at that point. And there's a great book out there by Deb Calvert that covers this very well. But basically the short version is get off yourself, try to help facilitate the change that they're going to make. And by doing that, and by the way, you shouldn't, I'm sure you've all read the Challenger Sale. And you can get the Challenger Sale wrong, right? I've seen all these young bucks that BDRs think they're going to challenge a CEO on how he's running his business. That's not what they're trying to say in Challenger Sale. But what is absolutely correct about that is, guys, if the customer could get to where they're going without you, well, they wouldn't be talking to you. They wouldn't be talking to you. So what they have a genuine need and a desire to move from where they're at to where they're trying to get, and you're the facilitator to help them do that. So do not hesitate to be their coach and facilitate their making decisions, because that's what they want you for. And it's a really wonderful thing. You can tell you're doing a good job when they invite you into your board meeting and you're sitting around the table along with everybody else that is part of the company trying to make a decision. That means they trust you enough that they want your input on the best possible way to do this, and that you've done a good job. That's a validating experience when that happens, and I'm sure all of you have had it. But when that happens, what it means is they know that you're not there just pushing a single thing. Okay, that you're really just trying to do what's best for the customer, and that's really the whole hybrid selling book starts out with this concept of we do what's best for the customer. And let me add a little, I'll tell you a little story about this, that this is not the one, Fred, you probably want me to share, but this will blow your mind, okay? Because it blew my mind when it happened. So maybe a little bit like Claire, I come from the B2B complex sales world, mostly healthcare sales, mostly to hospitals and clinics and things like that. So they're complex IT sales. And we went to a clinic that was, trying to make a change. And after talking to this lady, it just was overkill. What we had for them was just overkill for what she needed, right? So I just said, hey, you know what I think would be best for you is, let me tell you a couple of systems that I think are a better match for what you are. And I gave her the name of my competitors and their salespeople, right? And she thanked me, and I thought I'd never see her again. Okay, fast forward. There's a whole story about this I'm going to skip, but basically we end up selling Banner Health Systems, which is the largest healthcare system in the West. Okay, it was about a $10 million deal. And so this is like, not even when that happened. It was like a couple of years later, I'm talking to Glenn Edwards, their CIO, and I say, what made you call us to begin with? What made you call us to begin with? And you'll never believe what this guy says. He goes, so-and-so told me to call you. It was this lady from this clinic that we never even sold to that I had recommended that she buy these two other systems that wasn't us. Okay. Now, the takeaway I want to make from this is, did I walk into this other lady's clinic thinking, hey, I'm gonna do the right thing because I know she's going to refer me a $10 million deal 2 years later? That is not what I did. You do the right thing, guys, because it's the right thing to do. Okay, and you can call it karma, you can call it whatever you want, right? But if we do what's best for customers, you win and the customer wins, and you will be in 100% alignment with what you're doing in sales because you're facilitating it. Like, man, where we and a customer both gain, that is the sweet spot of selling, right? Because they win and we win, everybody wins, right? It's a virtuous cycle where we both win. And so if you always do what's best for customer, guys, you will have so much more fun going into your sales experience, because you'll just be doing what's best for the customer. You can get out, and the thing that makes this sometimes challenging, okay, if I had to boil it down to a word, I would say it's just quota. Okay, so sometimes we feel pressure, like, oh, I got to get this deal. And so I could go on a long time about that, but let me just give you a couple of really practical things. Okay, first of all, the data's back, and you leaning into it actually isn't helping you, it's hurting you. Okay, so do not do that. Just go in. If you're not right for the customer, it's going to come out, guys. So just facilitate that and be objective about it and figure out what the right thing, and maybe it involves you, maybe it doesn't. The second thing, though, is don't get yourself in a financial situation where you have to have the next sale. Okay, now we've gone way past selling when I say that. I'm telling you, manage your personal business in a way where you're not desperate, because desperation breeds massive dysfunctionality in selling. And customers can, and I could give you all the science behind it, right? It's in my book, chapter 3 of the book. You can read all about all these nonverbal signals that you send out when you have commission breath, right? When you go in there and you got to have it, the customers can smell it like a dog smells fear, and it turns them off. Yeah, and so Fred, I don't want to monopolize all the time here, but you asked a little bit on leading, which I absolutely love, and I also love just the concept in the book of we do what's best for the customer. And guys, if you go into your sales, each sales encounter just thinking, hey, what's the best thing I can do for this customer? Your enjoyment factor will go through the roof. And ironically, there's something sublime about it, but ironically, the data shows you'll sell more when you do that. And then you're loving life, right? It's a virtuous cycle where it just keeps feeding itself. And so you're enjoying more and you're making more.
Brilliant. And you know what? I knew it would happen with all you guys. I would just want to talk to you for the rest of the day. Again, same as Claire, same as Tyler. And it's very hard when I'm asking you to talk about one particular area, because you're covering the whole lot. Because of course, that's what selling is. That's the point of hybrid. But that piece you talk about, self-management, is so key. And again, that's why I included that in the latter part of the hybrid selling book. But James, thank you again so much for popping on. Perfect Close, definitely recommend that. And I know that on your personal website, you're incredibly generous with stuff you share to help people do the best. So we'll drop a link into chat with that as well, because we're all about trying to get helping salespeople do the right thing. So thank you again so much for joining me, James, and we'll catch up soon for a bit of a longer chat, I hope.
All right, my pleasure.
Thank you. And so, well, we're moving swiftly on, and Mike Wilkinson is my next guest. So Mike, I owe a massive debt of gratitude, because whenever I talk about value, I don't turn into him. That would be impossible. There's only one Mike Wilkinson. But I use his phrase that he taught me on a trip to somewhere exotic, I think it was. Value is a mystery, Mike. Value is a mystery. I use that all the time. Can we just check that I use it correctly and I've not morphed it into something wrong? So can you explain, what do you mean by value is a mystery when you talk about that? Let me just, I think I've put you on mute, or somebody has. Let me just take you off there. And just make sure we can hear you. So value is a mystery, sir.
Yes, it is.
Your catchphrase.
In fact, it was going to remain a mystery then while I was on mute, wasn't it? It's, I suppose, where did it come from? The easiest way is to explain where it came from. And I don't know whether you guys have, I used to talk a lot at pricing conferences, in fact, still do, and do a lot of training. And this word value comes up all the time. And I was in a conference in Copenhagen years ago, and the night before the session, I was talking to some of the guys, and every single one of them told me they sold value. And I thought, this is extraordinary. They've all been programmed. So the following day, instead of doing what I was going to do, I said, look, guys, I was staggered at how many of you told me that you sold value. So what I'd like you to do is to tell me what you think value is. So what I want you to do is to come up with an Oxford Dictionary definition of value, beginning with the words value is. And there were about 120 guys in this room and about 10 tables. And instantly, I began to realize it was a hell of a sight more difficult than I thought it was going to be. There was an awful lot of head scratching. And it took them about 20 minutes to come up with it. And I decided I was going to read each of these cards. I get them each to write a card with their definition on. I was going to read the definitions back. We'd pull all of them together and we come up with what we thought was the best definition of value. And so I got these cards back, and sure enough, every definition was different, not massively different. Clearly, there were some similarities, but I got halfway through this pack and I came up with this card, and it had 4 words written on it. This is 20 minutes of work, 4 words, and 2 of them were the words I'd given them, which was value is. And I turned this card over and I thought, this is bloody ridiculous. I can't possibly read this out. It's absolute nonsense. And of course, the words were value is a mystery. And I thought, I sort of sat back and I thought about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I began to realize the truth of that. Because we spend a lot of time assuming things about our customers. We spend a lot of time assuming we know what they think value is. But the reality is we don't, because we all define value differently. If you think about anything that we buy, anything we look at, we see value in a different way. So as sellers particularly, our job is to solve the value mystery. That's the key task that we have to have. And of course, when I discovered that you have to solve the value mystery, I thought, that's it, cracked it, bloody brilliant. And but of course, and I did post today, funnily enough, about this, is, I think people are very good at telling other people what to do, but they're pretty awful at showing people how to do it. And I thought, well, actually, knowing that I've got to solve the value mystery is fine, but how the hell do I do that? And what is value? And I thought what we need is a framework. We need some sort of constituent elements around which we can hang value. And for that, my partner at the time, Harry McDivitt, and I, we disappeared off into a darkened room for some time. And we developed this concept called the value triad. And I was looking at the value triad on Google yesterday, and I am amazed at how many people have nicked it. It's everywhere, and it's so simple. And when we talk about value, we look at it as a triangle and we look at 3 elements of value. The first element we called revenue gain or performance gain. If you're in a hospital or something, patient outcome is more important, but revenue gain. And the question is, how does our product or service help our customer improve their revenue? And it's amazing how difficult sometimes people find that to think about. And I say to people, well, let's start by thinking about what's revenue. It's volume times price. Well, that gives you a pretty reasonable starting point. So that's revenue gain. The next bit was the one I think we probably all recognize, which is cost reduction, which is how can what we do in terms of our product and service help our customers to reduce their costs? Now, those 2 things, revenue gain and cost reduction, are tangible, they're measurable, they're objective. You can monetize them, and you should. It is really, really important to put numbers on these things, because anybody can wander into a customer and say, I can help you make more money, I can help you save more money. But customers want to know how much and by when. That's what's really interesting to them. So we need to monetize it. The third element took us a lot longer to discover, really. And we played around with this, and we finally came up and we decided we would call it emotional contribution. And this is the intangible, subjective component of value. And it is so important. It is about relationships. It's about trust. It's about your reputation. It's about the value of your brand. It's about the reduction of risk. It's all of those things which are much, much more difficult to monetize, but are hugely important nevertheless, and have a value in their own right. So those were the 2 really key elements: defining that value is a mystery and that our job is to solve the value mystery, and then providing people with a tool to think about and conceptualize value, if you like. So when I look at value, there are 2 things. One is understanding it as a concept, and that is that. The other is then having conversations with our customers to understand what value actually means to them. And I pick up exactly on what Claire was saying earlier on. This is hugely important, because there are so many people involved in the sale now that to assume once you've spoken to one person, you now know it, it's simply not true.
Yeah. All right. Again, so elegantly put. This is why I quote you a lot.
Well, and I'm happy to say, I was going to say I'm happy. My wife was steaming last night because we were looking at exactly that, the value triad and the value as a mystery. And I'm amazed at how many people have plagiarized it.
I always put your name, sir.
I know. I'm not suggesting for a minute, Fred, that you had plagiarized it.
I just say, Mike did this. It's really good. Why do I want to reinvent something?
You're very kind.
A lot of time and effort in, and get you on here as well.
Yeah.
Oh no, Mike. Again, I've got an eye on the clock. I just want to talk to everyone so much about this stuff and go deeper. And I think that's the whole point about hybrid selling. We've got this framework, we've got these elements, and you can take all of them so much deeper. And again, if people are reading the book and going, right, I want to find the expert in this and go down that route, that's what it's all about. So I'm like, brilliant. Again, if there's anything you would like to link us to, people can sort of have a look at the triad and have a look at the way to deal with it.
Yeah, Donna's got that. I don't know whether she can pop it into chat, but yeah, the book that's on the screen. The link in the book is in the chat is for an audio book and a free PDF download of the book as well. So yeah, feel free to do that.
Cool. And I'll capture the things. There's quite a lot of links going in there. I'll capture those. I'll pop them into a summary of this, because we're going through stuff at pace and giving people a lot of stuff, and maybe people want to watch on replay. And I've still got Warwick to talk to as well. We've got Warwick. But Mike, I'm sorry to cut you off, but
that's all right.
We still need to do the podcast, by the way, sir.
Yes, we do.
Twice, and the internet is broken.
Yeah,
we will get there.
Yeah, have no fear.
Maybe the 200th, and it's been rebranded now anyway.
200th, that's fine. Yeah.
Be one of the first on the rebrand. So, brilliant. Donna, could we bring Warwick in, please? Warwick, sir, how the devil?
Hello.
How are you doing? So Warwick is founder of Cam Club, expert in key account management, director of management tips. So this is about the expand element, and I really wanted to focus in on some of the key account management stuff. I mean, I could also be getting customer success people in and sales mental health people and the rest. But I want to talk to you, Warwick, because I know you're passionate about the account management stuff and the kind of the crossovers between what it is compared to what sales is. Can you just give us a bit of a steer on that, please?
Well, obviously, key account management is looking after existing clients, and it's about devoting time, energy, retention, attention, and resources to maximizing the value from your most important, most valuable customers. So not necessarily the ones that spend the most today. We're looking for the opportunities tomorrow, but also involves focusing on customer retention. You obviously got to keep your clients happy and profitable and secure them long term. So it takes a lot of time in it and resources to sort of develop those accounts. Yeah, that's kind of my version of key account management. Whereas sales obviously is bringing in the business, key account management is keeping it. And
it is a question. Is it a different role? Should it be a different person doing this stuff? I've been asked to ask you this. It wasn't, sorry if I blindsided you, and that's not on the.
No, I saw that. I saw that comment.
You're used to this question anyway.
Yeah, it's not uncommon that somebody who wins the business ends up looking after the business, but I don't think long term it's a sustainable model because there's different specializations. It takes a lot of time to build those long-term relationships, to define the strategy for a client long-term and to execute that strategy. And if you're busy out there doing lead gen and closing sales and trying to negotiate deals, it can be very intense depending on your quotas and depending on kind of your expectations about those opportunities and the length of the sales cycle is. So, I think the divided attention doesn't really make you the best at sales and doesn't make you the best at account management. I think sometimes when you're a small business, you don't have a choice. You have to wear multiple hats. But as the business grows and as you're in a position to scale and specialize a bit more, I certainly think those two roles should be split for sure.
Yeah. No, as you said, but sometimes we're in a position where it can't be, and that one person does have to do both.
Yeah.
So to help the people that are in that role, what are some of the kind of key elements that you would say, look, go and look at that account manager. He's great. These are some of the things that you need to pull in and just put into your way of operating.
You need to have a plan. One of my favorite expressions is, when people say to me, which clients need an account plan? And my response is, well, just the ones you want to keep, because you need to have a blueprint. Now, the depth and breadth of your account plan is going to change depending on what's happening with the account and their expectations and the opportunities that are there in your time and your contact's time. But ultimately, every single account, no matter how big or small, you need to know what you're doing with them. Even if you're not doing nothing with them, at least make that be an intentional choice. Okay, this account is in maintenance mode. Basically, I'm waiting for them to call me right now because I'm busy with other stuff. But you've done that on purpose and you've identified that that's an account you can leave alone for a little while and not put it at risk. Versus, oh my God, it's been 6 months, I haven't called them. Thanks. So that would be my number one piece of advice. Have a plan and make sure you have those regular strategic interactions with your clients. Big accounts quarterly, smaller accounts maybe biannual. But clients come to you where are you adding the value if you're literally just letting them do their own thing? So I think you want to make sure that you're staying close to them.
And so you said have a plan and then have the collaboration, but you said strategic stuff. So this isn't just meeting up and say, all right, how you doing? Let's go watch a rugby match. Let's have a bit of a giggle. Cup of tea around yours.
Well, ultimately, you win the client, and what typically happens is you end up spending time on adoption, utilization, problem solving, the day-to-day sort of customer success elements of managing the account. But what you do is neglect the strategic elements like why should you stay? Why should you evolve? Why should you pay more for our stuff? And then there ends up being this big strategic void. And when it comes time to renew, you haven't had any of those conversations. Then you're scrambling right, a month or two before the contract saying, oh yeah, this is why you should stay. This is why you should make changes. This is how we can help you evolve. This is how we can transform. And suddenly you're throwing a price increase on top of that. So if you don't have those conversations along the way, it becomes really inauthentic, really insincere, and really difficult to convince them that you're the person to lead them through that transformation when you've neglected them for the past 2 or 3 years. And now that you're renewing, suddenly your interest perks up.
Yeah. Interesting you mentioned customer success management. So again, I talk about that in the book and saying ideal world, yes, we have account managers, yes, we've got customer success managers, we've got all the specialists in position. Can't always have that though. So I think a salesperson needs to get their head around that too. It's a big ask for salespeople going forward.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And, customer success is very operational, strategic in itself around utilization and adoption, but you need somebody that's available, technically proficient, understands the value proposition and the tools and the setup and configuration. You're asking your salespeople to be spread very, very thin if they have to be all things to all people, for sure. Like, how are you supposed to go and try bring in new leads while you're also supposed to set up cost centers and profiles and do password resets and do training? Like, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. It's the churlish. It's the fool in me, but I need to ask you this. So Cam Club, this is your setup.
Yeah.
What are the rules of Cam Club?
Rules of Cam Club. Oh, don't talk about Cam Club. That's
doesn't do any good for your promotion, mate. So
no, it doesn't.
Club,
talk about Cam Club. That's the rules of Cam Club. Shout it from the rooftops. So the Cam Club is my sort of private learning community, helping busy key account managers get results. So I've got about 120 members in there. We have training workshops, tutorials, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, templates, all that kind of stuff to really just help people get set up for success. The goal there is to make it easy for people to find stuff. Key account management's not a function that has a lot of resources available. Sales gets the pointy end of all of that kind of attention and content. Key account management is so much. So that's my goal, is to make it a solid library community for key account managers.
Cool. Not a silly question, genuine question here. Are salespeople welcome? If somebody has got to do this this multi-task role, it's like, yeah, I get it. I can see that strategic thinking. It's the plan bit.
Yeah,
I'd like those templates. They're more than welcome to come along and participate. Yeah,
well, the misconception is that account managers don't sell. Well, we start with a relationship with a key contact when we implement, but we still have business leaders, we have business unit managers, we've got to talk to CFO, CEOs, get budgets approved, we've got to renew customers, we've got to upsell, cross-sell, expand into new markets. That's all the job of an account manager. So there's a very heavy sales element along with the service element. So yeah, salespeople are definitely welcome. And a lot of the people that are inside the Cam Club are in that sort of small to medium-sized business where they've grown through they're agile. They've just done whatever needed to be done. And now they're at that point where they need to start scaling, need to start bringing in systems to improve consistency and quality of experience for customers, as well as not reinvent the wheel and have 10 different people doing 10 different things. There's lots of people in that space where they're different, a foot in each, sales and account management.
Brilliant. Well, again, we'll drop some links. Certainly, if we can't put it in chat, we'll put it into the stuff that we're sending out and leave them on the platform afterwards. So again, I'm so sorry Donna's done that. Oh, and a 14-day free trial. Nice.
14-day free trial. So come along, check it out. 60-day money back. Love it or leave it, money back guarantee. And thanks so much for having me along. Great to see you all here. Commission breath, James, is my new favorite expression. Love that. It says so much. 2 words say so much.
It does. And the whole, love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant. No, thank you, Warwick.
All right. Bye, everybody.
And I am going to go and not book myself on Cam Club. I'm going to book myself on Self-Management Club to try and get better at time management. But hey, with guests like this, how can I cut them off? I hated doing that. So I'm going to do my roundup bit very, very quick. It's a question. It's about, is this stuff for you? We have talked about a hell of a lot, but that is what modern selling does involve. If you're not interested in this, seriously look at your own future in it. You are potentially going to be a sad dinosaur if you can't embrace this, if you don't want to get involved with it. So what can we do to help? We want you to be like Harry and Larry. Harry and Larry from the book, without spoiling it too much, they end up okay. Yeah, but you'll have to buy it to find out exactly what happens and exactly how. Donna, better pop the link in there, please. I'm sure people want to buy it just to find out what Harry and Larry do. To be fair, if you don't want to buy it, if 99p is too much, then Donna will also drop in the hybrid selling scorecard link. This is a free resource. This will ask you questions around the framework and around some of the things we've been talking about to give you a tailored report around how you are at the moment in relation to this new way of thinking. It's got dynamic content, so it'll give you a PDF, which is the report for you, based on the answers to questions, which takes about 4 or 5 minutes to do. Yeah, so you got put email in, but that will is only so you can get your feedback. If not, I'm going to be giving lots of stuff away around this. So my name, obviously I can grab all the social media handles as Fred Copestake. So yeah, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, all of them there. YouTube is going to be a big focus for me this year. I'm going to put a lot of stuff on that. So if you want to subscribe, again, this is a bit of a link frenzy now. So Donna, if you could put my link tree in there, then that's a quick way that you can connect on those. And yeah, give me feedback as well. Ask me questions around that. The podcast, I mentioned the podcast. Mike is going to come on the podcast this year. It's taken us 18 months, but we will do it. We were stuck at home. We still couldn't get it done. But no, podcast rebranded Sales Today, because for me, that's representing what it is about. It's interviewing people who will share stuff that's going to help you work today. So again, look at that. Why am I doing it? Why am I doing it? Because unashamedly, I want to be the guy that is known to bring this stuff for salespeople, to help them to get better at what they're doing, to future-proof themselves by keeping them relevant. You know, that's what I want to do. That's why I wrote this stuff. That's why I did it so quickly after book one. It just made sense to me that I wanted to do that. I want salespeople to be proud. I want them to be proud of what they do. It is a noble profession. It is something that we can do well, and we can get better at. So that is why I've done it. In a nutshell, good people doing good things in a good way. I think that's, well, I know that's been reflected by every single one of the guests. That's what they've been talking about. That's what the book tries to capture. So there we go. One last slide, one last thing to look at. Hybrid selling. It's out now. 99p for the next few days, if I haven't mentioned that. And then available in perpetuity for the rest of the time. But look, that's where I will wrap up. I'm not going to jump off if the people do have questions, but that is the official end of the launch. But just another thank you to the guys who've made time to come on and just share a little bit of their expertise. And it really is only a little bit. These guys go really deep. So thank you.